I personally believe that AI changes the company before it changes the product. In a way, the roadmap is the last thing to feel it, not the first.
Mm-hmm.
And more we realize that also our customers, large brands with thousands and thousands of locations, are starting to ask not only, hey, what AI elements are in your product, but tell me, how much are you actually building with AI?
Welcome to another episode of SaaS Scale. I'm here with a guest, and that we are going to speak about many topics, including AI, as you can imagine. Manuel, welcome to the podcast. We are happy to have you here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, the company, and then we can start talking about the topics that I'm pretty sure the audience would be very interested about them.
Lovely. Thank you very much for letting me be here today. I'm currently working for Q as the CSO, Chief Strategy Officer, and CAIO, which is a pretty new title focused primarily on AI and making companies AI ready and AI first. For Q Beyond, Q POS, we refer to it very lovingly internally as just QU. When you think about Q and why Q is different in any ways, I usually compare it. It's like what smartphones did to the phone, Q did to the POS market. Very early on, it was just a cash register. You can think about these, Wild West movies where we pull on this arm and then, cash comes out. And then you had to build on a number of other things like, okay, now to pay with card. So you come and provide them with a card reader. And then suddenly Uber Eats comes in or DoorDash. And you somehow had to make sure that what was like in its earliest stage, a cash register, suddenly not only reads cards, but also gets all these other channels. And so it kind of organically grew, sometimes a bit like a Frankenstein, because you had to build on many, many different channels and items. And Q was, in a way, lucky because we came a bit late. And so we said we have to rethink this entire way of doing business. How about we are this unifying layer, the commerce platform that thinks many different channels first. So it doesn't matter if then, DoorDash and Uber Eats and Rappi, or suddenly you order online or a drive-through or all these different channels where you can order. We are just a unified layer, the unified data layer, the unified commerce platform that connects all these different channels. And I was very lucky in a way that we took this architectural decision because, as I was saying, it's a bit what smartphones did to the phone because we came in at the right time.
Can you tell us a little bit about, for example, when you started thinking more seriously about AI during this journey? Because you mentioned, when you started, or the company actually started this business, you guys were at the point that mobile was the kind of, and different devices were there. What about AI? Where did AI came to this kind of arrived in this journey?
That is a really good question. And I'll actually go 2-3 steps back here and give a bit about my background and how I joined Q, which leads more naturally to AI. So I actually have a completely different career. Right now, I am a restaurant tech executive, but I wore different costumes, if you will, over the course of my life. I was an investment banker in Hong Kong, a McKinsey manager in the most remote, weird places you can imagine, a lonely island in Papua New Guinea, worked for the World Bank and was a CIO for humanitarian aid organization. And I think I have had 6 or 7 different C titles by now: CEO, CTO, CIO. So the AIO, the AI part is just the latest in these different costumes I have been wearing. And the company I worked for before joining Q was PowerX. PowerX is my own company. I founded it and scaled it with a really amazing team until we're acquired in December 2024 by Q. So I was founder and CEO of PowerX, which was an AI-enabled hardware-based platform to actually meter and read electric signals. And what was really cool about this platform and our patented system was that we could read from an electric signal, whether it's, for example, a television that might be on or off, or it's a water heater, or any kind of different appliance. So when we talked to Q, they were like, oh, this is amazing. Like, you could actually tell in the kitchen if that's a fryer or a fridge. And maybe even from the signal, we measure it over 1,000 times per second if that is about to break down or not. So a lot of data coming in. And we have to read a lot of smart things from that data. And first we started with something that I would not call AI, which is, say, machine learning or even simple rule-based code to understand the signal. But more and more you bring in what I would call as, true AI, like LLMs that can make sense of data and can make sense of text the way nothing prior to that could do. And that's when that was when Q said, oh, we want to have this. We can actually not only be a POS system, but we can also, in a way, understand and own the kitchen and all the appliances in the kitchen and all the operations in the kitchen like nobody else can do or could do before. And just one example of that, we, for example, can read from HVAC, which is a huge cost item. HVAC, heating, cooling. If the system is about to break down, if it needs maintenance, which coil might be a problem. And we can tell the operator in a restaurant. And all this really because we have AI. So a completely different angle, a new angle to a POS that defines itself as a unified commerce platform. Now,
I have to ask this question, even if it's a little bit not very kind of, directly related to what you said. But how does it happen? Because these guys are in restaurant business. You are in more kind of, and then all of a sudden, maybe you went to one of the restaurants and met somebody and talked about, how did you guys even come up with this merger?
That's a really, really good question. And it is a bit finally of PowerX. We were building this first for, a person and residential solutions. So you could see which kind of appliances are on and running and spending your money in your home. But then in the 4th year of PowerX, McDonald's cold outreach called us and said, hey, this is really interesting. We would want to understand what happens with our appliances. We would want to understand before a fridge goes down, before a freezer goes down. We would want to understand how our people are performing in the kitchen if they leave a fryer on for too long or not. And we said, well, we can do that. We have a patented system that can actually give you these answers. And so from one day to the next, we suddenly worked in McDonald's restaurants doing that. And that's when we got on the radar of Q, who said, look, this is really interesting. We don't know how the kitchen of the future will look like. Will there be people working? Will there even be a restaurant where people sit down? Or is it all online ordering? We don't know. But we know one thing. You need a kitchen to cook food. And so PowerX and what you have built as PowerX might be, one of these racehorses you bet on that completely changes the industry. And that was the spark, in a way, that flew between PowerX and Q. And that's why and how we got acquired. And I have to say that was, one of the greatest and most fun things in my pretty wild career.
Fantastic. Now, you are, based on your title, I have to assume that the company Q has a big plan for AI. So they are getting more and more into AI.
Yes.
Now, how do you see that the path moving forward would be for, I would say, a company like Q, for example, that is a technology company serving restaurants?
A really great question. I personally believe that AI changes the company before it changes the product. In a way, the roadmap is the last thing to feel it, not the first.
Mm-hmm.
And more we realize that also our customers, large brands with thousands and thousands of locations, are starting to ask not only, hey, what AI elements are in your product, but tell me, how much are you actually building with AI? What's your process of building software? And I think it's a really, really smart question, because imagine if you could, just an assumption, speed up at the same quality your development 5, 6, 8x with AI. And again, this is an assumption. We can talk about this a bit later. You will be competitive in 2-3 years from now versus companies, legacy companies, let me call them like this for now, are still working at a 1 or 2x multiplier, use AI very little or only, very sparsely here and there in engineering. Which POS company, really, which company in whatever industry will be able to compete in 2-3 years from now? And if you are a really big chain and rolls out, let's say, a POS system to 5,000-6,000 different locations, you really don't want to be locked in with a partner that, because they have only a 1x, 2x multiplier of AI, will not be able to competitive and may go down 2, 3, 4 years from now because competition is just so far ahead. So I think it's not only, when we talk about the great plans or the big plans of Q with AI, it's not only how can we be cool, forward-looking, bring AI or a chatbot into our features. That's actually the secondary question. The question is, how can we fundamentally, and how must we fundamentally change our company and how we work to get into the 6, 8x multiplier range, so we are not a legacy company 2-3 years from now and nobody wants to work with us.
Fascinating. Now, when we are talking about really higher productivity level powered by AI, many people may argue that the most difficult part is not really just to create the software, is to maintain the software. Or, for example, particular optimizations that you need to do, for example, with regard to cost of performance or some other things, that the more you get to that zone, then it's more time consuming.
Yes.
How do you see AI can help in many of these aspects? And I get your point that organization, before getting to product, by just managing the way you manage your organization, even the way the culture is, the way many things is happening, can be automated in a way that AI does it in a more perfected way, in a better, faster, easier way. And before even you touch the product, but in the end, product is a very big cost center or investment center, depending on how you look at it, at any software company that builds a product. That's the core, part of the product.
I think that really puts the finger in the wound a little bit, if you want, because especially for mission critical system, as with AI, I hear a lot the quote being, move fast, break things. AI is so fast, you can just rebuild it. If you already have an existing company, an existing code base, and that existing code base may or may not be in Python or whatever language is widely available. It may be in .NET or even something that is a bit more outdated. And it may be mission critical. Actually, many companies are so mission critical they cannot just move faster and break things. So in a way, you have the question to AI, how can you move faster? How can you make us move faster and break less? And that's when you get into the question of maintainability, but also, how much should you dare to get AI work on your code? It's a double-edged sword. With the one thing is that I would even say the past year, 2025, the sword was much sharper on the side of the AI part, and it cut most hands that tried to handle it. Like the AI was just not there. Hallucination rates were just too high. It built a lot of bad code that's hard to maintain, or if there's an incident, people just sit and say, I have no idea. I didn't build this code. I don't know it. It's getting better and better and better. So while it's still a double-edged sword, I think what we really have to be aware of is AI, reduced hallucination over a year by a 10, 15x already. Where do we stand next year? Where do we stand in 2 years from now? So the question is really, how much do we predict the future? And is this what we see in AI actually this exponential growth path? Now, going back to your question in specific, I've had a number of conferences, private investor conference in Silicon Valley over the past weeks and months. And it's mind-blowing to me how much Silicon Valley is actually leaning in AI with their investment. And they have, 50, 80, 100 portfolio companies. They have more legacy, they have very new ones, and they see many different models of how AI actually works and doesn't work. And I would say unisono from all major investors, the thought and the push is, if you do not, I don't want to say AI first, but if you do not really change fundamentally the way you work in the next couple of months, even not even years, I don't know whether you will be a good company in our portfolio. It goes from, do some adjustments here and there, make sure Claude or whatever model, supports you people, to full one-person teams. A one-person team, we call it L4 majority, the highest majority level. There's only just one or two humans in the loop, and they have different agents, AI agents. There's a product AI agent, which has a skill set and is trained to think and reason and act like product. There's a coding AI agent that, again, has the skill set and things like a coder. There's a QA agent that has a more conservative, how can I make sure this code actually works in production? There's a DevOps agent. So in a way, the different careers you would have in product engineering, those become agents that have the skill sets and the way of reasoning and even different models behind them that consume more or less money to fulfill these different roles. We do have companies that we talk to in these portfolios that have complete one-person squads. So only one human in the loop orchestrating, sometimes two, because you want to have a 24-hour time frame. So like one handling, or three, one handling US time zone, another one handling more Asian time zone. And they just come in and see, what have these agents, these AI agents, done while I was out? And they become orchestrators. They become managers of agents. And like the most advanced company I've seen there, it's a 1:26 ratio. One human, 26 different agents that work pretty much by themselves to produce code. It works for some companies. If you have an old established code base and you are mission critical, you need to be much more careful. So it depends a lot on what you are building, if these different models work or not. I would argue at Q, we are somewhere between L2 and L3, majority level 2 and 3, which, depending on the product that we have, L2 is more that we augment existing human developers, QA, quality, or product with AI tools and with some agents, but it's really just augmenting what the human does. And we see a 1, 2, 3x improvement in productivity. Up to L4, one team working at L4, which is not mission critical. And there we see huge improvements in velocity, the speed of how we push out code. But we also see, quite some more rework and iteration and hallucination. So I would argue we get into 10x multiplier in how much this in terms of speed and how much faster we actually produce code in these L4 teams. But we also have to iterate and rework about 2x, 3x more. So in the end, they are just a little bit faster than our L2, L3 teams. Do I think in the future, in 1 year from now, we are actually talking about a 6x multiplier in productivity? Yes, I think so.
Yeah, you're right. So again, it goes back to how maintainable that entity that you are creating, and it can be a brand new, right? So we ran a test. We said this is a brand new product, a brand new capability. Let's run it, and we ran that with that agentic organization that you talked about. So the ratio was you are one person, human, in charge of this, with everybody else being agents. What was created, it was very amazing the first week, but the problem was we could not maintain it because we had no idea what's going on, and the amount of code and everything that was generated, it was amazing. And we could actually learn a lot about the way AI did the QA, AI did the development. I mean, fantastic, fascinating. Having said that, everybody came back and said, I'm not sure if we can maintain this. So if we can really run this, and even if it works today and tomorrow you come back and say, change something, we don't know if it is really something we would be able to go there and just maintain. And that's why I raised the maintainability part of it. That is kind of the bigger part, because after you create it and the first few weeks is done, then what do you want to do with the rest of the period? And that's something yet to be seen, how we would find a kind of solution for it in a kind of more agentic world rather than human world. And probably the hybrid model works best for now, that we have some human in charge and they're not very detached from the system. So at least they can understand what's going on, and at any point they can go and maintain it. And if we get too much detached from the system and leave it to intelligence, that is definitely faster, better, cheaper, to do their job, we will be happy at the beginning, yet to be known if you are happy in the end as well or not.
And I think a core change of mindset needs to happen to understand how to build for more maintainable code. Because adding agent, the first thing that one sees, oh my God, it writes code so fast. So we build agents for code. And the more and more you get into how actually agents write code, the more you say, I mustn't build agents to produce code, because that is a given. They can produce as much lines of code as you want. I must produce agents or design for the agents autonomy to maintain. And that means we are actually purposefully not thinking about the code first, but we think about the maintainability, and to be maintainable, the agent's autonomy first. What does that mean? We have very narrow agents. The prompts are very versioned. It has to have a full trail of reasoning. So human can come in and say, okay, what happened in this very specific agent? It has a very strict tool schema. It has, as said, full tracing of all these narrow agents, an ongoing eval. It has guardrails, permissions that request for a number of tricky elements, human approval. And then also I always request my agents to reason and in a risk document that makes their behavior reproducible. So when you start with AI, you kind of give it a prompt and say, do this, and then there's a black box, and then it produces something, and it looks very flashy, and you get in and continue, it's like, oh my God, like this really is problematic. That's why once you have felt these downfalls in the flesh a couple of times, you start to scope Agents, very, very differently. Much more narrow, much more based on risk and maintainability, much more based on versions and traced and so on. Is it as good as a human who kind of can contain this context window of millions and millions of tokens in his or her head? No, it's not. Not yet, at least. Are we getting maybe not 80%, but like 50, 60, 70% there in maintainability? Yes. And I think, again, what I was saying before, like when we think in the future, next year, a year after, the clothes and the ChatGPTs, of the world, they know that this is an issue, and they are already starting to move and help with it. Larger context windows. Fable 5 just was released again yesterday, and it is able to reason and have multiple agents over many, many different steps, 12, 15, 18 hours. Now suddenly, maintainability is much easier with the Fable 5. A Fable 5 class, if you will, agent than anything you had before, which has, way less understanding of the context, or even if it has the same context window, it actually lost track of things after about 150,000 tokens, versus the Fable 5 keeps extremely high understanding of context, even when you approach a 1 billion context window. So you're right. Are we there yet? No. Will we be getting there in a year or two from now? I'm pretty sure we will.
Yeah. And the other model I have seen is using AI to optimize AI and optimize and optimize and optimize in order really to get to the point that, not taking whatever it creates first version, but take it and then work on it and work on it and work on it. And that makes it more and more maintainable as you continue working on it. Of course, on the contrary, you are increasing the time and everything. And again, it's more a hybrid model that, you combine. But yeah, no, I'm with you. It's really very promising, very exciting. And definitely what we have seen is getting better and better as we go forward. But you are a big believer that actually one of the biggest advantage of any software company would become the speed, essentially. So if they are moving faster than the competitors, they're going to be the winner. And that's what they need to really do. And that's one of the biggest advantage that AI can bring to them, not on the software level, all of that, but on all aspects of it, how to make the organization move much faster than the peers.
Having been a founder, I think for most, not all, for most tech companies, speed is the number one differentiator of failing versus not. For sure, speed without a goal is also problematic. But we assume for a moment that, both companies have a sensible goal, and then speed is the differentiator. Yes, I absolutely believe in that. Let me give you a very simple example. There's a number of customers coming to us and saying, look, I would love to go with you, but I'm missing this feature. Or I would love to go with you, but you know what? Our old POS had a button up there, and everybody's so used to it. If we can get the button up there, that would just make us so happy. So sure, can you do this? Yes, but then you have to also work on your tech debt. You also have to work on making sure the architecture stays stable, and then feature development, customers. So you have all these different competing requests, and resources are just never enough. The times of, 2010 or so, when investors would give millions and billions to the Googles of the world, and they could basically hire who they want, those times are over. So there is just competition for resources, and what gets developed first. If I'm a company in this market, and the restaurant tech market is industry, I've learned one of the most amazing and unique industries ever, because people nearly all know each other and they talk so much. Now, if CEO of company X tells me, you know what? I love Q because they were able to put that button from down here to up there within 3 days after I asked. Versus company Y that said, I have been asking for this button, which really is just putting it from here to there for 2 years now. They haven't done it. You know what? I realize I'm not important for you. Bye-bye. That is the difference of speed. And now this might be, special in this cosmos, if you will, in this industry of restaurants, because everybody talks a lot and knows each other. So people know if you react fast or not. But honestly, you can scale this experience to other industries as well. You get known as somebody who delivers on customer requests faster, who really listens to customers versus not. And not because you want to or not, but because you are faster, and with the limited resources that you have, you can do things quicker. So yes, I honestly believe it is the difference between, for many companies, especially young startups, the difference between going down versus being a company that excites customers. And again, I really truly believe if you are too slow to convert your company, and it's a really, really incredibly big lift, because it changes the way humans have to think about themselves. Even you were a coder, now you are an orchestrator of agents. It's a huge lift, transformation, and change management. If you are too late to that, many companies will not survive.
Yeah, very good point. So I have a random question for you at this point. You have traveled to many cities around the world, and I wonder if I ask you, can you give me, just tell me about one city that I should go and spend 2 weeks there, and you would say, you know what, you will have a great time, go and visit this city. Which city that would be?
Oof. That is a very, very difficult question, because I feel cities and countries are all very unique in what they give you. There's countries that give you the extreme liveliness of Latin American cities. There's like there's the samba or the salsa just in every second corner, and you feel very much relaxed, and it's hot, and like everybody's shouting. Then there are cities that are, like DC, for example, where you have these huge monuments and it's much more calm. And as a bicyclist, you are very happy because you have bike lanes everywhere. So it depends a bit, which city do you want to be in at what point in time? I would argue a city that is combining many different things in a beautiful way is Melbourne in Australia, or Zurich. Yes, Zurich, or really Geneva, or Bern, in Switzerland. Like these are cities that you get the inner city vibe, but then also you have nature if you want to get out. If you are 22 years, no plans for kids yet, and you love to be active, New York is difficult to beat. I did live 2 years in New York. It was just amazing. Nowadays, I actually enjoy DC quite a bit for children, being calm. And then again, I also love to spend time in Latin American cities, the music, the life everywhere, bristling. And as a funny last one, I know you asked me for one city, and I'm giving you seven.
Oh, that's good.
Whenever you feel a bit like life's getting boring, just go to Mumbai or India overall. It's just been 2 days is enough, right? In Mumbai or in Delhi, and nothing will be boring anymore. The colors, the traffic. I rented a car once, my first time in India. It was a really not a smart idea. Like, if your heart rate is ever too low, just go and live in Delhi for a couple of weeks and drive a car there, and your heart rate will adjust to whatever level you want it to adjust.
Interesting. Thank you very much. That was good insight. Good insight. Last question. Is there any book that you liked, it personally or professionally, and you wanted to recommend the audience?
Professionally, I like a number of books, for example, High Output Management by N. Grove. And the core idea is really, as a manager, you are not there to be the smartest person in the room. You are there to be a multiplier of everyone else's work, a bit like what AI does.
Mm-hmm.
So you create the, if you will, the operating system, so people can work most effectively, most efficiently. All the one-ones, the reviews you have, the feedback that you give, the meetings that you do, all exists to make your people shine and do their best. And I really love that view of a manager. I would even argue the next step of it is to be a leader. A manager, if you will, keeps the machine running. A leader is able to unite the hearts behind a shared vision. So if you can be a leader and a manager, it's an extremely powerful way to lead your people. And one person can be the one that 2-3x's what your department does. We kept the same amount of people in our engineering department that I've been very fortunate to lead, with several hundred employees at Q, and we tripled output over the past year, 2.7x output without adding headcount. And it's just a very beautiful thing. And honestly, it is 100% down to the people working in this department. It's just a beautiful thing to see. All you have to do is build the operating system so people can do their best. Personally, I have a long list. Difficult to pick. Maybe, something like Crime and Punishment from Dostoevsky, a Russian author, because it really asks the question, like, can a human ever recover from a really bad deed or very, very bad decision? And I would argue it boils down to the statement that the mind really is the prison before any court gets involved. And I just loved how Dostoevsky was in a way, breaking down this really deep human question of, can you ever recover from, in this case, I think he commits murder. Can you ever recover from that? And so it was amazing and mind-blowing to see Dostoevsky breaking this down.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing. And it was a pleasure having you in this discussion, Manuel. Thanks for joining us.
Same here. Thank you so very much.